What's up, everybody? This is the real Greg Kelly, and you are watching the real Greg Kelly Show. We are back in the building. Y'all know exactly what's going down tonight. Y'all saw what happened when I started talking about Ukraine last night, didn't you? Oh boy, they do not want us to be talking about that right there. They don't want it. Anyway, y'all already know what time it is, man. Trump got raided. We gonna talk about it. We gotta talk about it. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Amanda, Joker. I can't even really see everybody else, but welcome to the show, man. Welcome to the show. And I got a doozy for you. So we're gonna continue on looking at how communism has erupted in this country. No doubt about it. We don't, have to try to pretend anymore. Y'all, we do not have time to pretend. It is wide open. Wide open. No longer can this be a fact that is being discredited, a fact that is being disregarded. The Communist Party is alive, well, strong, gaining ground on American soil. On American soil. Never been done before in the history of this country. We have never seen anything like this before in this country. America has been literally infiltrated by the Communist Party. And if you don't know what the Communist Party has in store for any country that loves freedom, for any country that has a constitution that puts the power of liberty and its sustainability in the hands of its citizens, the only thing that they desire to do is to bring that nation and its citizens to its knees. America, the enemy, is here. The enemy is here. Make no ifs, ands, and buts about it. The enemy is here. I want to welcome everybody to the broadcast. Nothing but love for you if you are a freedom-loving American. Nothing but love for you. This is not a game. This is not a game. Newsflash. Former President Donald Trump's home in Florida has been raided by the FBI. America, it is war at every corner, every door, front or back, left or right, side doesn't matter. Wherever you turn, the weaponization of the federal government is on full display. Full display. Let's get right into it. You're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. Donald Trump's premises. Taken over by federal agents looking for something they know does not exist. You're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. Newsflash.
All right, joining us now live, he was with his father for most of the day. As I understand it today, Eric Trump is with us. Eric, you were with your dad as this was unfolding?
I was, Sean. In fact, I was the guy that got the call this morning, and I called my father to let him know that it happened. So I was involved in this all day. And, welcome to politics in the 2000s. Sean, my father never got so much as a speeding ticket in his life, until he made one decision, and that's to go down the escalators of Mar-a-Lago and spend a lot of money and go and actually fight for this country for the first time. And he did a better job than anybody has ever done. And they started coming after him. The Washington Post, the day he won, 2016, the day he won, November 8th, that night they wrote an article. This is when impeachment begins. He wasn't president. He hadn't been elected for for 5 minutes at that point. And they start, this is when impeachment begins. And then he's impeached the first time. And then he was impeached the second time. And they slandered him. They belittled him. They went after him. They went after all of us. There's no family in American history that has taken more arrows in the back than the Trump family every single time. And you know what? It's gone on past politics. You look at the attorney generals, you look at district attorneys all over the country. All they want to do is they want to get Donald Trump. They raise money on it. They send fundraising emails about it. They brag on camera about it. They go after him. They subpoena him. I'm probably the most subpoenaed person in the history of the United States. Every single day we get another subpoena. And they do it for one reason. Because they don't want Donald Trump to run and win again in 2024. And Sean, that's what this is about today. To have 30 FBI agents, actually more than that, descend on Mar-a-Lago, give absolutely, no notice, go through the gate, start ransacking an office, ransacking a closet. They broke into a safe. He didn't even have anything in the safe. I mean, give me a break. And this is coming from what? The National Archives? Yet, Hunter Biden, he's a firearms crimes, prostitution, illegal drugs, shady deals with everybody around the world. And by the way, it's all on his laptop for the whole world to see. In his own writing, in his own words, corroborated by everybody. Where are these FBI agents? Where is everybody? Why?
Listen, you're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. That's a great series of questions that everybody in this room, everybody in this chat, everybody in this country has to come to grips with. It's a question. Why has not Hunter Biden's premises been invaded by the FBI? Where is the FBI in relationship to Hunter Biden and the incriminating evidence that's on the laptop? The incriminating evidence found on his cloud. Evidence of treason, espionage, you name it. You name it, and they're covering it up. They're digging 24/7 a hole to try to bury this story. Doing a damn good job. And I want you to pay attention to everything that we've seen so far from last night. How the communists work. See, what we're not looking at is that it's ideal for them to get, once again, to have us fighting each other in the streets so they don't have to. So they don't have to. You see, they want us to respond right before the election so they can have an excuse to unleash all of executive emergency powers can unleash. Every ounce of it, every dictatorial, every tyrannical move that can be made gets moved freely if the Constitution gets suspended, emergency powers enacted. The president has absolute power over the military with no congressional oversight. America at that point, all of the gloves are off. All of the gloves are off. There are no contingency plans. You know what that means. Let's get back into Eric Trump giving us firsthand information, first knowledge. Then we're going to go over to the other Greg Kelly from Newsmax. Oh, he really breaks this down, puts this in perspective for the American people. You're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show.
is it that the arrows only fly at Donald Trump and his family? Why is it that the political persecution only goes one way in this country?
Well, let's talk a little bit about what you were being told. What was the purpose for this raid?
Sean, the purpose of the raid, from what they said, was because the National Archives wanted to, corroborate whether or not Donald Trump had any documents in his possession. And my father has worked so collaboratively with them for months. In fact, the lawyer that's been working on this was totally shocked. He goes, I had such an amazing relationship with these people, and all of a sudden, on no notice, they sent 20 cars and 30 agents. Sean, I mean, this is just more political persecution of Donald J. Trump. They see Biden.
Well, let me go
He's
through
failing
this so in a little
every
detail.
single. Please.
But because I'm assuming, all right, so your father is packing, he's leaving the White House. I don't know. I'm guessing that your dad probably didn't pack a single box. I'm just guessing. You would know better than I. You can tell me if he did or if he didn't. All these boxes, all your personal items get brought down to Mar-a-Lago. There's a question about whether there might be classified information that had been written about a long time ago. Let's walk through the process. So Mar-a-Lago, the people that work for your dad, were working with the National Archives to go through the material to make sure if there was anything mistakenly taken that it was going to be returned. And you were working collaboratively on that. Is that correct?
So when the president moves out of the White House, you have effectively, 6 hours to move out of the White House. It's effectively inauguration time where one president gets moved out and one president gets moved in, right? That's how the whole system works, as you know better than anybody. My father always kept clippings, press clippings. He would have, newspaper articles, pictures, notes from us. When my mom passed away a couple weeks ago, him. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. My father saves clippings and things like that. So he had boxes, all right, when he moved out of the White House. And he was very collaborative. If you want to search for anything, if you think anything, come right ahead. I mean, it was an open door policy. And all of a sudden, 30 agents descend upon Mar-a-Lago. Sean, this didn't come from the little local FBI field office in Palm Beach, Florida. You know who this came from. This came from one place and one building, and that is the White House in Washington, D.C. They want to attack a guy who they view as his greatest threat, is Biden's greatest threat. And that's exactly what Donald J. Trump is, because you know what? He had an incredibly strong country. People realized he was an effective president. And you see Biden right now. I mean, Taiwan is getting circled by military planes literally as we sit here and speak right now. You've got, Russia, Ukraine, which is a total disaster. You've got everything that's happening in Iran, which is a disaster. You've got inflation. You've got gas prices. All the things that you talk about all night. We're not respected by anybody around the world. Our economy is garbage, and they worry that Donald Trump will come back in and win this very easily. They also worry about the 2022 midterms, which is the only reason they're doing the sham January 6th panel that does not have a single Republican on it. I mean, other than Liz Cheney, who's about to lose her race by 25 points, right? It's more political persecution of Donald J. Trump. They can't stand that Americans love him. I mean, even as I watch the channel right now, they keep on showing these beautiful clips of people, waving Trump flags outside of Mar-a-Lago, his supporters. When has that ever happened in a political movement in the United States before?
It has never happened before. And this is exactly what they are afraid of. They are afraid of the American people. They are afraid of me and you. Everything that they're doing proves that they are afraid of me and you. Regardless of how you look at it, the eye test gets passed. Donald Trump is the leader of the people. Regardless of the outcome of the election, Donald Trump is the leader of the people. And it may not be all the people, but it's most of the people. And we can go ahead and annihilate the white supremacists, and that's all the people. We could stop that. That should have been stopped long time ago. That should have been finished long time ago. This is a war between the good and the bad people, the righteous and the wicked people of this country. And what's happening to the former president happens to us. And I don't want anybody to get it mistaken. What happens to the president happens to us by the exact same people that are doing it to him. This is the communist agenda. This is what this regime is after. This regime is after you and me and every other American citizen being slaves. They've talked about it enough, saying that slavery is here and still alive, especially to the African Americans of this country. While they proclaim to be fighting against it, their policies are building that exact same system that it claims to defy. The enemy's here. Keep watching.
You know, you think back to the Russia hoax, the Russia witch hunt, the conspiracy theory. It went on for 3 long years. Eric, you know, I covered it every single night, and we ended up being vindicated on every single solitary thing that was reported on this show with our full ensemble cast. You know, Ari Fleischer tweeted out, "All I can say is the FBI better have a slam dunk criminal case. Otherwise, the Biden administration and the DOJ have crossed a line of no return." What could they possibly think existed inside of Mar-a-Lago in a box that was taken from the White House that was so damaging that the FBI director and the Attorney General of the United States would have to raid a former president's residence and grab everything out of there? Because that doesn't make sense. What secret document could possibly rise to that level?
Yeah. I don't know. They'll probably find a note from me telling him how proud I am of him and what a great job he was doing as president. They might find some pictures of my kids, maybe some nice, headlines, maybe a nice note from you, Sean. It's insane. How many times can you cry wolf? I mean, the FBI dragged this whole country through hell for 3 years based on lies and deceit and dirty dossiers and FISA warrants and everything else, right? And everything proved to be incorrect, fraudulent, made up, an absolute sham. They dragged this country through hell. And here they are again, raiding the guy's house. I mean, when do you give up? When do you say enough's enough? When do you give a human being, who fought so hard for this country, when do you give them the benefit of the doubt? It's got to stop, Sean. I mean, this is third world,
we do have examples.
Banana Republic stuff.
All right, so Hillary Clinton deletes the 33,000 emails. She comes up with the dirty Russian dossier. That dossier is disseminated to the press, the media mob, or the willing accomplices. They disseminate false information in the lead up to the 2016 election. Nothing happens to her. Nothing happens to the media. They don't even apologize or correct the record at any particular point. Then, of course, that information, unverified, is used to spy on Carter Page and backdoor into the Trump campaign, transition team, and presidency. Nobody gets held accountable for that. If you or your brother Don Jr., God forbid, you lied on a gun application, I doubt you'd be on this program tonight. You'd be serving time in jail. Or you have process crimes. Peter Navarro was being charged with a misdemeanor. That usually means you call the lawyer and say, have your client report at this time, at this place, or we will secure a warrant for that person's arrest. Same with a process crime with Manafort, or same with Roger Stone. Sure. I mean, these are not violent criminals that deserve pre-dawn raids with guns in their face, and then, of course, tipped off CNN cameras. And America tonight is asking, do we have equal justice and application of our laws in this country? Because after the way they treated your father with the Russian hoax, after, again, they better have a good reason for this. And here's another thing. Were the lawyers allowed to follow the FBI through Mar-a-Lago?
The answer is no, they were not. I want everybody listening to make a determination in your heart. unless you really, really grasp what is taking place in this country, you know, we can get it wrong. We can make mistakes. We can say things that are not beneficial. But I want to make sure that there is a level of clarity with those I care about. This is a long, old war. And make no mistake about this. We have a communist president who will not relinquish power. Who will not stop until this country is destroyed. And I want you to let that sink in. Donald Trump did not make every right call, but Donald Trump is against the establishment. And don't get it confused. He was the only man standing in between global tyranny and freedom. And we know what happened. You don't have to agree with everything that was done. But there's one thing for sure you can agree upon. I'm sure we all can. Is that he fought for America and he made America great again. Was he perfect at it? No. No man is. And let's not make perfection the standard that we consider before we decide to go and vote and elect a president. Because if perfection is the standard, we can vote for no one. Let's continue.
Today, as they were looking everywhere, did anyone watch them?
No, the answer is lawyers weren't allowed. They weren't allowed to be anywhere within sight. It's horrible. That's got to be a violation right there. They weren't allowed to be anywhere in sight. And going back to Hillary, there's a whole lot of other things. How about the Benghazi scandals? How about the Clinton Foundation? I mean, how many, shady oligarchs from Russia were contributing to that? How about Uranium One? You want to talk about, scandals that were never investigated, never vetted? It's the rules for thee and not for me, right? That's the old, Sean, this has been happening since day one. They cannot stand that a guy named Donald Trump, who is a real estate developer, who built tremendous wealth and fame, was able to go into a political system in the U.S. and take out a person like Hillary Clinton and beat them at their own game, and then go into Washington, D.C. and do a phenomenal job and not play by the rules and end up becoming one of the best presidents this country has ever had. And then they put in one of their own, and the guy turns out to be an absolute flop. He does a terrible, terrible job, and the country is going to hell under his leadership. And then now all of a sudden they realize that his son's in trouble, and that he's in trouble, and their political party's in trouble, and that Donald Trump is poised, if he wanted it, if he decided to hop back on that stage and wanted it, they know he's poised to win. And guess what? That threatens them, that threatens who they are, and they will do anything they can to take him out, to take me out, to take Don out, to take Ivanka out, to take our family out. They do it every single day. They do it at a state level. They do it at a federal level. The FBI does it. They subpoena us. They make our lives hell, Sean, every single day because they are threatened by Donald J. Trump. And honestly, I hope, and I'm saying this for the first time, I hope he goes out and beats these guys again. Because honestly, this country can't survive this nonsense. It can't. This is not who we are. This is who Venezuela is, Sean. This is banana republic antics. Having a home of the 45th president of the United States raided by FBI agents, safes broken open. This is not who we are as a democracy. Imagine if that happened to Barack Obama. The world would be in an uproar.
Well, Eric Trump, I don't know. I think Ari Fleisch is right. If you watch what they've done over the years, they don't get the benefit of the doubt anymore because they lied and they tried to take your father out for 3 years, and they used a dirty Hillary dossier to do it. They spied on him illegally. Nobody was held accountable. She wasn't held accountable. No raid of Hunter's house. They had the laptop longer than anybody. Director Ray, I don't know anything about the laptop. And we certainly have a politicized Department of Justice. There's no doubt about it. Eric Trump, thank you for being with us tonight. We appreciate it. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
We're just gonna take a quick pause for the cause. Just let all of that settle in, y'all. Just let that settle in. President of the United States has his premises raided by the FBI. These are the same people that gave us the dossier, the witch hunt, Russia collusion, Russia. Now they got something else. Now they shoving something else down our throats. Let me tell you something, man. It's good to be alive and be aware. Otherwise, we'd be swept away. Round 2, we gonna check out Greg Kelly from Newsmax. Not the real Greg Kelly. The other Greg Kelly. He good though. I like him a lot. It's steadily developing, and Greg Kelly from Newsmax has a very good perspective. I want to share it with you. You're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show, live and in color. All right, we ain't going nowhere. We'll be right back. We still here.
To America. This is crazy. This is dangerous. This is scary. The FBI raided the home of President Donald Trump. His official residence at Mar-a-Lago raided by the FBI. This is crazy. The FBI, you lost my confidence a long time ago, but there can be no mistaking it now. The FBI, a corrupt organization. Oh yeah, there are good people there, sure, but maybe they should resign. Federal Bureau of Incompetence, Federal Bureaucrats Incorporated, what is happening there? So politicized, so dangerous. Working for Merrick Garland? Did you do this because Merrick Garland wants it? Merrick Garland? Meanwhile, Hunter Biden. Hunter, has his house been raided? We all know, we can all see the criminality. You guys sit on your hands with that case and you move in on President Donald Trump. You know, thank God it's Donald Trump, quite frankly, because nobody else could withstand this kind of pressure, both the pressure during the campaign, during the presidency, the fake impeachments, the Russia hoax, January 6th investigations, Soviet-style investigations, and now this. He is unique. He is special. And his statement today is an important one. I will read it in its entirety. It was posted on Truth Social. Statement by Donald J. Trump, 45th President of the United States of America. These are dark times for our nation, as my beautiful home, Mar-a-Lago in Palm Beach, Florida, is currently under siege, raided and occupied by a large group of FBI agents. Nothing like this has ever happened to a president of the United States before. After working and cooperating with the relevant government agencies, this unannounced raid on my home was not necessary or appropriate. It is prosecutorial misconduct, the weaponization of the justice system, and an attack by radical left Democrats who desperately don't want me to run for president in 2024, especially based on recent polls, and who will likewise do anything to stop Republicans and conservatives in the upcoming midterm elections. Such an assault could only take place in broken third world countries. Sadly, America has now become one of those countries, corrupt at a level not seen before.
Okay. Now, everything that we looked at last night, the commonality that we experienced was the third world country scenario. upheavals amongst the people, the poorest of those societies, brainwashed with propaganda, Western propaganda. They know exactly what buttons to push, and they know when to push them. And just like I said before our last break, this is exactly what the communists want. They want us in the streets fighting against us while they puppeteer the solution to the problem and pretend to be the saviors when it was them and their propaganda that ignited it. Tell me you see exactly what I'm talking about. Tell me you see it. Not if you don't see it, but tell me you see it. How many more smoke and mirror mirage style plays do they need to make before we figure out that they're all the same play from a playbook that has been used for hundreds of years to create chaos, subvert governments, and implant puppets? America is the prized token of the communist. The prize token. And our president has shown every sign there is to show that he's in bed with the communists. If you're enjoying this outside of me talking too much, let me know something in the chat. Let me know what you think about this material. Let me know what you can see. This is Tell Me What You Can See Part 2. We just came in a different way, but you're still watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. I'm going to be quiet so you can listen to the other Greg Kelly.
They even broke into my safe. What is the difference between this and Watergate, where operatives broke into the Democrat National Committee? Here, in reverse, Democrats broke into the home of the 45th president of the United States. The political persecution of Donald J. Trump has been going on for years. With the now fully debunked Russia scam, impeachment hoax number 1, impeachment hoax number 2, and so much more, it just never ends. It is political targeting at the highest level. Hillary Clinton was allowed to delete and acid wash 33,000 emails after they were subpoenaed by Congress. Absolutely nothing has happened to hold her accountable. She even took antique furniture and other items from the White House. I stood up to America's bureaucratic corruption. I restored power to the people and truly delivered for our country like we have never seen before. The establishment hated it. Now, as they watch my endorsed candidates win big victories and see my dominance in all polls, they are trying to stop me. And the Republican Party, once more, the lawlessness, political persecution, and witch hunt must be exposed and stopped. I will continue to fight for the great American people.
Is there anybody anywhere that can deny that Donald Trump was America's greatest, most productive, most able, most respected, and the craziest, by the way, president we've ever had in this country? Nobody can deny it unless they simply choose to deny reality, which we know there's a lot of that going on in this country right now. Over and over, they create smokescreens, lies, manipulate the narrative in the mainstream. They seed the mainstream media puppets, the globalist puppets, the New World Order puppets, the Great Reset puppets. They seed them and feed them the lie that they desire to spread like a cancer into the psyche of American people. And make no mistake, they always try and target the poorest of the poor. and, psychologically transform their ideas for the negative. Instead of inspiring them to come out of poverty, they tell them they're in poverty because of a system. But if you really pay attention to the system is designed for the poorest. You can start a business out of the trunk of your car. And if you work hard, and if you stay consistent, you can do anything you want to do. Become a vital player to the change that you want to see in your community and entirely change the outcome of your life. That's your choice as an American. To deny that that is a choice is to deny reality. You're watching The Real Greg Kelly Show. I'm in the cockpit of freedom. I want to make sure that everybody that's in this chat, everybody that's been watching this broadcast tonight, I want you to know something. You were born free. And unless we do what we have to do now, we won't die that way. We'll die slaves. We're going to go a few more minutes into Greg Kelly's, the other Greg Kelly from Newsmax. We're going to go a little further into his report because I want you to see a few things, and we're going to kind of cut it short because it's really long, but it's very informative. I should have put this in the description. I didn't have time. Y'all already know me. I'm late on everything when it comes to YouTube. I'll get it in the chat, perhaps. You definitely want to see this. You're watching The Real Greg Kelly Show. Let's get back into the other Greg Kelly's news report.
Wow. What a statement. What a president. What a man. He is on a roll right now. And later in the show, we'll show you some very pathetic video of Joe Biden. He could not even put his jacket on. This man seems to have more authority, more clout than the sitting president of the United States. He's right about these hoaxes. The Mueller Russia hoax, what he put us through. He knew early on that it was a scam, and he kept it going in an attempt to try to sabotage the presidency of Donald Trump. By the way, on the Russia hoax, Chris Wray, who ought to be ashamed of himself, really, Christopher Wray, the director of the FBI, he couldn't bring himself to say the word hoax, but maybe the word scheme. What is a better word than hoax? Did you see this?
Do you agree that the allegation of secret collusion between President Trump and Russia was a hoax? Yes or no?
I don't think that's the terminology I would use, but I think there's been a lot written on this subject, and both in the special counsel's report, the inspector general's
Just
report.
Yes or no is fine.
So that's not a term I would use.
What a bureaucrat. Not a leader, a swamp bureaucrat. Well, who cares at this point? This guy rubber stamped, approved this raid on a former president's home. By the way, sneaky guy, very sneaky. Ray, he concluded that hearing because he had to catch a flight, which suggests to me that he has to go catch the Delta shuttle, which sounded really weird because, well, watch this.
We just heard a half hour ago about your having to leave at 1:30. When he announced this meeting, he said we're going to have 7-minute first rounds, 3-minute second rounds. I've got 7 people on my side of the aisle want their additional 3 minutes. Is there any reason we couldn't accommodate them for 21 minutes or whatever Democrats want second rounds to?
Senator, I had a flight that I'm supposed to be hightailing it to out of here, and I had understood that we were going to be done at 1:30, so that's how we ended up where we are.
All right, so what are the details here? The arrogance, the bureaucratic sneakiness. It was an FBI plane to take him on vacation. These guys, crazily enough, have FBI planes at their disposal. When Comey was fired by Trump, and Comey totally deserved it, by the way, he was in Los Angeles on another field trip, and he flew back on the FBI plane. Donald Trump, it is amazing how he has withstood all of this. He keeps fighting back. That January 6th committee, right out of the Soviet Union, all their predetermined the scripts, no cross-examination, only witnesses from one side, members who are not really from the opposition party, those rhinos, Cheney and Kinzinger. And you can't ask basic questions about what really happened on January. Think about it. For Donald Trump being targeted by this corrupt government, it's a badge of honor. It is a badge of honor when the FBI comes for you, a political, yes, that's how I see it now. And when the fake news comes for you, it's a badge of honor. When they accuse you of lying, almost anybody in power, you're probably on to the truth. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like the big lie, the so-called big lie. They love saying it, don't they?
We have found at least 18 states where candidates are running that deny the legitimacy of the last election. 50 plus candidates endorsed some version of the big lie. All of those candidates, Republicans. It's a prerequisite to get that endorsement, to have endorsed some version of the big lie.
That primary in Georgia on Tuesday might be the highest profile test of that big lie.
You really should shut up with this big lie, because it's not a lie. It is not a lie. Questioning the fairness of the 2020 election, and Donald Trump, not only are his candidates winning, he's winning in court, okay? There are problems with this election.
As the Wisconsin Supreme Court said in its decision, if the right to vote is to have any meaning at all, elections must be conducted according to law. Really great.
He's totally right. And if you get some time, I know it doesn't look like fun reading a 140-page decision from the Supreme Court of Wisconsin, but it's worth it, because those drop boxes, there were hundreds of them throughout Wisconsin. Those flimsy plastic drop boxes, take a look at them. They're illegal. They are illegal. All right. They were against the law of Wisconsin.
The infamous ballot boxes, 2,000 mules. I like to call it 2,000 mules and more, by the way. I know a lot of people don't have it in their gut to say it anywhere where it might actually make a difference. They cheated. And they intend to do it again. So, I'm not afraid to say it. That's what they did. They cheated. Point blank, period. They cheated. All right. I'm not going to show my face tonight. I just decided not to. I just wanted to give you guys, just me, period, without seeing me, just how I carry it at the crib. I want all of you to know I'm definitely thinking about you guys, man, because I care about the state of this country. I pray everything is okay with you guys. I pray that you guys have plenty of food, you have water, you have what you need. I actually pray that in us, in our hearts, in this group, in this, this group of people right here, that we really get behind each other, really try to get more involved, and make sure that if we ever need each other, that we there for each other, regardless. Of any differences we may have, we should make that commitment to each other. This is a small group, but I believe we're a strong group. Let's keep it that way. Okay, let's get into Tell Me What You See Part 2. We have already seen firsthand that Ukraine is not supposed to be talked about. So we had to skip over Ukraine, but I want you to know this. if you can remember anything that you saw last night, we saw how the one martyr can start a revolution. We saw it in Northern Africa. We saw it all over the Middle East, even in Egypt, even in Ukraine. Same game plan played out in Ukraine. YouTube didn't want us to see it. But now we're going to take a look at America. And I just want you to tell me what you see. That's all I'm asking. Just tell me what you see. I don't care what it is that you see. Just make sure you share it with me. I want to know what you see. All right, you're watching The Real Greg Kelly Show. I'll be right back after these brief commercials. We'll be going into America, overrun by communism in America. Tell me what you see. You're watching The Real Greg Kelly Show.
Don't shoot! Hands up!
The Third Precinct of the Minneapolis Police Department, on fire. Nearby businesses ablaze. This is how the night of May 28th unfolded. George Floyd's arrest and death in police custody on Monday set off protests in the Twin Cities. The protesters are demanding that criminal charges be brought against the officers involved.
Put their fists up! Yeah! We all here! All lives matter!
When that didn't happen on Thursday, some demonstrators escalated their tactics, while others tried to keep the peace.
Stop!
Just a group out there engaged in peaceful activity.
Police scanner audio and footage from outside the precinct provide insight into what happened.
9901 emergency. We got individuals breaching the gate at the Third Precinct. We also got people trying to breach the front doors.
The police shoot tear gas from grenade launchers.
You want more of your people to die? You cowards! You want more of the people you're supposed to protect to die? You cowards! You!
This back and forth with protesters continues for about an hour.
To breach the back gate. You're taking heavy rocks.
Heavy rocks. Please air the route that everyone should take.
Southbound. We're going southbound.
Copy. Evacuation route is southbound.
Around 10 p.m., the officers begin evacuating the precinct.
Information citywide, the Third Precinct has been compromised.
Third Precinct is up in flames.
On Friday, one former officer was charged with murder and manslaughter in connection with George Floyd's death.
Did anybody make any connection to the summer of love? The summer of love. Anybody make a connection? Can you see the bullshit? The summer of love. That's what they call peaceful protesting. That's what the communists told us through our media outlets. The communist propaganda machine told us that this was peaceful, right? So, it didn't happen over here on the East Coast so much, other than New York City, Baltimore. But out in Oregon, California, out west, where some of the most liberal people in the world live, including their leadership, that's what they called peaceful protest. Peaceful protest. And nothing happened to those that participated. You saw it here. Tell me what you think about that. How does that make you feel as an American? Sitting back watching the communists come and try to take our nation, try to take our people, try to buffoonically manipulate the real patriots, the real soldiers, the real defenders of peace in this country. I'm offended. I'm deeply offended. But I'm gonna keep it cool. I'm just sharing it with my people. Yeah, I'm offended. I'm touched. Too much bloodshed for righteousness. To keep the people of this country liberated, to throw it down the drain, to follow the communist. The communist. Better rise up, America. Better rise up. You watching the Real Greg Kelly Show? I might not be up here long, but I'm gonna keep right on telling the truth until they shut it all the way down. And I'm still gonna find a way to come back up. That's just the way it is. Let's keep watching how this poison, this cancer spread throughout this nation and erupted. And got our citizens being manipulated and believing this lie that black people oppressed, fighting in the streets, burning down our own neighborhoods while we bring in a foreign government that wants to see us get destroyed and see us all be slaves. That's never gonna happen on our watch. Whew, boy. Oh. Anyway. Y'all watching the Real Greg Kelly Show, man. This is, we're going to go into the second segment. Actually, the first segment. No, this is the second segment. This is how the summer of love played out all over the United States. The BLM riots. Right here, Real Greg Kelly Show.
On the streets outside the US Embassy in London, another huge turnout. For the second day, thousands of protesters out in force. Their passion and calls to tackle injustice undimmed a fortnight after the shocking death of George Floyd in Minneapolis.
The way we oppress the minorities, I think everyone should be equal, and we've been oppressed for a long time, a very long time, so I think it's time to change and make everyone equal.
When we walk into a shop, when we walk anywhere else, if we're with our friends that are black, they just get oppressed straight away. You can see they get judged, and it's not fair. It's not how society should be. We should all be in one. We should be in one harmony.
The crowds here are passionate but very peaceful. Organisers are desperate to avoid a repeat of the violence that marred the end of Saturday's protests. 14 police officers were injured in the violence outside Downing Street on Saturday, including a mounted officer thrown from her horse as it collided with a traffic light.
I'm absolutely sickened and appalled by the level of violence that was on display. Police officers were abused and police officers were injured, and we have a police officer that is seriously injured and in hospital right now, and that is absolutely unacceptable.
The protests in the capital have been replicated, albeit on a smaller scale, in several other UK cities. In Bristol, crowds toppled this statue of Edward Colston.
Now, you need to remember, this was part of Mao's game plan. Let's get rid of the statues. Let's erase the history. Even later on down the road, you're going to hear Michelle Obama utter those exact same words. And she's going to allude to the fact that her husband, his husband, Big Mike, as we commonly refer to her around here, she's going to allude to the fact that that's exactly what Barack said. So, who was Barack Obama? And who did he pledge his allegiance to? We're going to see shortly. You're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. This is what happened in the United Kingdom, which is why I call the young brother over in North Africa the Middle Eastern George Floyd, because what happened to George Floyd is spilled over into the United Kingdom. See, it's playing out exactly how it played out in the Middle East, in Northern Africa, in Germany, in China, and in Russia, and in Ukraine. The only difference is, in this country, the oppression is not what it was in those nations that revolted. And so the propaganda machine has to use the MK Ultra mind manipulation and mind control program to make people believe, despite what they see, despite the millions of African Americans that are successful in this country and are reaching out to their communities, teaching about taxes, teaching about entrepreneurship, teaching about how to start a business, what to do on your taxes. Again, this is a country where you can start a business out of the trunk of your car. Ask Master P, man. He did it. He looked like me. He was a black man. So how did he get there? If the system is rigged to try to keep black people oppressed. They had to unleash the media machine to brainwash an entire population of people. But yet not entirely. I want you to see it for yourself. Please share this video.
A 17th century trader and MP who protesters say enriched himself on the back of the slave trade. These latest protests are another clear rejection of the government's plea to stay at home. The Health Secretary again outlining the risks of marching en masse in the middle of a coronavirus health emergency.
It's undoubtedly a risk. So, I support very strongly the argument that is being made by those who are protesting for more equality and against discrimination. But the virus itself doesn't discriminate. And gathering in large groups is temporarily against the rules precisely because it increases the risk of the spread of this virus. So I would urge people to make their argument, and I will support you in making that argument, but please don't spread this virus, which has already done so much damage.
George Floyd!
As protesters again congregated in Parliament Square and the area around Whitehall, police reinforcements were close by in side streets, hoping they won't be needed, but ready in the event of trouble. Mark White, Sky News.
All right, y'all, I'm back. Whew. Okay, look, this right here was the summer of love, y'all. This is what love looked like when the communists run in your country. Yeah, this is what love looked like, okay? Don't get it twisted. This is what they have in store for us. I'm not making this up. I couldn't make this up. I'm not that good. I'm not making this up, man. Jesus. I wish I was. Okay. I'm gonna give you one more of the summer of love, okay? Just to let it sink in. All right, just to let it sink in. Because I do want it to sink in. Don't make any predetermined judgments. I want you to see it all. I want you to see it all for yourself. Put it all together for yourself. Here we go. It went down. Here we go. Part 3. No, as a matter of fact, yeah, I decided to skip over that. Yeah, I did. So what we're gonna do instead of going to part 3 of what took place on American soil called the Summer of Love, we're gonna actually look at the people that fund this movement. At least one of the people that fund this movement. I want you to sit back, pay attention, take notes. George Soros, front and center. Front and center. Look the enemy straight in the eye. Look him straight in the eye. Unbelievable. Here we go, y'all. George Soros.
George Soros. Does that name ring a bell? I'm sure it does. If you take interest in global trends, popular culture, or geopolitics, you may have definitely come across this name. Let's put a face to it. This is the man we're talking about. He is George Soros, arguably one of the most controversial figures in the world. With as many supporters as detractors, there are reports celebrating his philanthropy, also those questioning his ideas about the world. For some people, Soros is a legend, a financial guru, one of the most successful investors of all time. Yet some believe he is a man of malicious influence, a billionaire who is able to move markets, someone who can sway politics and opinion. So who is the real Soros? And why is he such a polarizing figure? Hello and welcome to Gravitas Plus. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. Have you ever heard of Black Wednesday? It refers to an event in September 1992 when George Soros and a group of investors forced Britain to withdraw its pound from the European Exchange Rate Mechanism, ERM. In other words, they forced the pound out of existence. How is this done? Soros placed an enormous bet against the British pound. He said it would sink below the lowest currency exchange limit. More investors placed their bets assuming this would happen. Their actions put a lot of pressure on the pound. It sank further, ultimately pushing the United Kingdom out of the ERM. All of these investors made money, up to $300 million, but Soros was the winner, earning $1.5 billion in just 1 month. This score earned him legendary status and boosted his firm's wealth to $7 billion. They started calling him the man who broke the Bank of England. Today they call him a master manipulator of the global order, an unregulated billionaire with a messiah complex. Some say he can bring down not just currencies, but entire systems. Some accusations are indeed far-fetched, but they say there's no smoke without fire. So even if these are exaggerations, what are they based on? Let's look at how much this man is worth. Soros is among the 10 richest hedge fund managers in the world with an estimated worth of $8.6 billion. Some say he's worth way more than this, given the suspiciously enormous sums of money he gives away for charitable causes. He's donated more than $32 billion to a foundation he runs, out of which $15 billion have been distributed in 37 countries. What is this money being used for? For education programs, health camps, human rights movements, justice reform, global governance, and quote-unquote, the furtherance of democracy. How is this done?
The furtherance of democracy. So, in case you haven't noticed, I want to be the first to tell you. The Democrats have been infiltrated by communists. Just a quick news flash. They have been infiltrated. We have been infiltrated. Bringing down markets. What's currently happening to this market? What's currently happening in Democratic-run cities? How are prosecutors on they're on a communist payroll? Prosecutors, communist payroll. Make no mistake about it, George Soros is a communist. He's paying our prosecutors. He's paying them not to prosecute. And guess what? They're not prosecuting. Keep watching.
Through the Open Society Foundation, a name inspired from a 1945 book, The Open Society and Its Enemies. This body is headquartered in New York and has active programs in more than 60 countries. This group gives major grants to organizations and parties that are aligned with its mission and objectives. Basically, anybody who seeks to shake up the status quo. In Israel, the only democracy in West Asia, the list of grantees of the OSF include a number of Israeli NGOs that deny the legitimacy of Israel. In Palestine, OSF funds NGOs like the Al-Haq and Palestinian Center for Human Rights, both of which are associated with the Popular Front, an outfit designated as a terrorist organization by the US, the EU, Canada, and Israel. What would you call George Soros then? A political activist? Why not? In September 2012, he donated $1 million to a political action committee led by Barack Obama. In 2016, he was the biggest donor to the Hillary Clinton campaign, giving almost $8 million. The move was met with a lot of criticism. He also donated £400,000 to anti-Brexit groups opposing Britain's exit from the European Union, but favoured Germany leaving the EU back in 2013. He's a man of convictions and contradictions. In June 2018, Hungary, which happens to be his native country, passed a law dedicated to this man. It's called the Stop Soros Law, aimed at ending OSF funding to organizations that support illegal entry of undocumented migrants. The OSF calls this law authoritarian. Hungary says it is only safeguarding national security. Now, here's the thing. Promoting and funding reform in a system is one thing, but undermining a nation's sovereignty by influencing decisions is quite another.
All right, I want to try to put this in perspective just a little bit. Just a little bit. Have you ever stopped and decided to take a little time to meditate on why our borders are wide open? The communist reason why our borders are wide open. Because there is a reason. See, right now, BLM and Antifa, they're not strong enough in numbers. They don't have enough bodies to do the job. So they bring in the poorest of the poor and the violent of all violent people. Some of the Mexican Brotherhood down there, MS-13, the cartels. They let them come over. No penalties, can't go to jail. And they start the recruiting, they start the brainwashing, and before you know it, you got a couple of million soldiers. You done hit Mao status, so to speak. You see, the communists need more numbers, so the border's wide open. Don't take my word for it. Do your homework. Find out how the communists work. Angry Conservative has several videos on the Communist Manifesto, Marxism. You want to know what their practices are. And as soon as you come to know them, you'll better interpret what you're seeing happen right here on American soil. We've been infiltrated, y'all. God, I can't stress it enough. We have been infiltrated. It's not a game. Let's continue this video.
Soros and the OSF seek to liberate the world from ideas they consider outdated and restraining. They want to change political realities that are not suitable to their principles. Take their activism in India, for example. In January 2020, Soros unveiled a plan to set up a $1 billion fund to build a global network of higher educational institutions. Institutions that will help students put up a resistance against growing nationalism. He singled out several countries and their leaders. India was one of them. He called India a Hindu nationalist state, which is suffering the biggest and most frightening setback.
The biggest and most frightening setback occurred in India, where the democratically elected Narendra Modi created a Hindu nationalist state.
This was last year. This year, a scandal hit India, the Pegasus project. It suggested that the government of India was spying on its citizens. The report had a list of 300-odd Indians. Who was behind this project? 17 media organizations and 2 global entities, Amnesty International and Forbidden Stories. They're both beneficiaries of grants and funds from the Open Society Foundation. In 2018, Amnesty received a €137,000 grant from the OSF for a campaign to repeal a law Ireland had passed. In June 2021, just a month before the Pegasus report came out, Open Society Foundation named the former Secretary General of Amnesty as its Vice President for Global Affairs. Then we have Forbidden Stories. It has been proven to receive funds from the US State Department. And guess who do they feature as a supporter on their website? The Open Society Foundation. Here's something else that you must know. Sherpa, a French NGO, which is a persistent litigator in India's Rafale deal with France, has also been a recipient of indirect funds from the OSF through a third party. Simply put, a revolving door spins between these NGOs and the offices of George Soros. The same goes for media organizations involved in this project. The Media Research Center, an American media watchdog established in 1987, says 30 American news organizations have links to George Soros, and most of them were part of the Pegasus project. The project itself is under investigation in many countries. At some point, India too will have to specify its position on surveillance and clear the air on whether it uses softwares like Pegasus. In the meantime, can this nexus between news organizations and George Soros be ignored?
I don't think the connection between the media sources and George Soros can be ignored, because we're seeing the benefits of news outlets. And we're seeing, what they're able to, matter of fact, now we should know why. They're only telling the side of the story that they're telling. It's because they're being paid by a communist. Point blank, period. That's what's happening. We're going to take a quick break. You watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. Man, I have no words for what I'm seeing take place here. But again, I'm maintaining. And I want everybody to know. I want everybody to know this, that this country is the greatest country that has ever existed. And you were blessed enough to be born here. Take advantage of your opportunities. And if you don't know you have opportunities, do a little research. Find out what opportunities are actually available for you. We're going to take a quick pause for the calls. We're going to come back. Got a few more things I want to show you guys. And I got a few more things I want to share with the family. And I'm going to sign off. But you're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. Take a breather. Okay, so this is what I'm going to share with you next. Communism, again, has been around for a very, very long time. Donald Trump, while he was in office, had a meeting with a very special individual. I want you to hear what this special man told the former president of the United States. I want you to listen very, very closely. I want you to listen intentionally. Please take notes on what this brother's saying. All my African American brothers and sisters, if you are in this room, if you are hearing this now, I want you to pay attention to what he says. Listen to his story. Listen intently. Please like the channel. Please subscribe. Please share this. You are watching The Real Greg Kelly Show, and right after this commercial break, right after this intro, you are going to hear President Donald Trump be warned about communism. The Real Greg Kelly Show.
Hope he gets vetted in front of the Senate. Our dear Carlos Trujillo, a very young man with a tremendous future. Thank you very much, because you have selected those people, and I assure you they will be eternally loyal to you, and they have your back. I assure you of that. Now, my story is very simple. We always talk about socialism. Socialism is nothing but communism during Halloween. There's no such a thing as socialism. America has always been the most socialist country in the world. We're definitely the most generous. Look at the people in this table. Look at our backgrounds. Just think that in 1961, as a 13-year-old, by myself, in my way to Spain. I wasn't even coming here. I arrived in this great country, and almost 60 years later, I'm sitting next to the President of the United States, talking about the American dream. The only country in the world, no other country in the world, that you can start a business from the trunk of your car, and within a very few years, with hard work, commitment, and all the core values that we learn from this very culture of ours, we can become very important to our future. We can become those people who make the next generation better than the one before. This is the only country. Why do you think you had to close the borders? Because everybody in the world wants to come over here. Nobody's ever forced to come over here. We come over here, in my case, because my parents chose that I would not be indoctrinated by the communist country, by the totalitarian country, by the totalitarian regime. They don't educate children. Absolutely not. And this is something that we need to understand. What is happening in our backyard today, I experienced as an 11-year-old. I remember vividly all the promises that a guy named Castro gave, and how 99% of the people swallow the pill It took many years later, after I read somebody named Saul Alinsky, that I realized that all those people were nothing but useful idiots. I remember Castro while in the mountains being interviewed and asked if he was a communist. He went crazy. I dare you, he says. Católico, apostólico y romano. I'm a Roman Catholic. Educated by the Jesuits, he was. How dare you? We even have a priest in the mountains. Used to have priests in the mountains. I remember, I was the Marist brothers, Christopher Columbus here, for those of you know. And I remember the brothers, the Marist brothers, used to send young kids to the mountains because it was the second coming of our Lord. He was going to save Cuba. I remember how he promised to the farmers, to the Guajiros, that you're going to own the land. I remember all the promises that we hear today about free education and free health care and free land. And my God, no freedom. But he never said that until after he was in power, got rid of all the police, got rid of all the military. Been there for the last 60 years and counting. And he destroyed each and every one who helped him. The Catholic Church. Everybody. And why do I know that? Because I happened to come to this country with the very last 9 cloister nuns from Convento Santa Clara, because he had taken over the convent. And I was on my way to Spain. I wasn't even coming here because I was going to join my brother, who my parents had already sent a few months before, because he was in the age where the government will take him for indoctrination purposes. My dad, who had experienced the same thing coming from Spain at the turn of the century, running away not from socialism, communism. He knew better. I remember when he used to tell my mom, Fefa, this SOB is a communist. My mother says, look, how can you say that? He's Catholic. Look, he's worse. He had rosary beads all over his neck. It just so happened that when I was in my way to Spain to meet my brother, I was going to go to the Marist brothers in La Coruña, España. Same brothers here at Christopher Columbus, by the way. My brother died, and I was kept in this country. Greatest blessing I ever had. But imagine what happened to mom and dad. One day, you lose both kids. This is a family who had never been involved in politics. My father came at age 18 from Spain, running from communists. By himself, never went back. After a long, long life of sacrifice, when he was about to enjoy the fruit of his labors, just like a president that is helping us today, because he could have been just having a good time. One of his many beautiful golf courses, I know. But yet he gave up enjoying the fruit of his labors to do this. So did my dad. That's why I love you. Exactly the same. So when they're about to do that, from one day to the next, they end up in this country with the shirt that he was wearing on his back. And Little Maximo have been here already 4 years. But thank God for Pedro Pan. Talking about socialism, Catholic Church, 14,000 kids who came like me in this country without parents. And we were provided an opportunity. This is what makes our country great. They didn't give me free nothing. They gave me the opportunity. That is the most valuable thing in the world. Now, when I said they didn't give me any free something, please understand, that at 13 years old, I had to be provided with a home, I had to be provided with food and an education. That is socialism. That's Americanism. That's the America that these people are trying to destroy today by using funny terms like socialism. They're not. They're communist. Don't ever forget that. I know our president understands that because he knows. He's been all over the world, and you're surrounded with great people, very loyal people. And we have our back. I remember the first time I gave a little speech about something like this, tell him about I came from Cuba and all, blah, blah, blah. I remember this was around October 2016. I thought you were a little crazy for the sacrifice you were about to take, but I predicted that we were going to elect you in November, and I was going to see you in the White House in January. Thank you very much. Because of the situations right now, I cannot give you a hug otherwise. Thank you very much. And I'm going to leave you with one last thing. Never forget about my dad, who only had a 6th grade education, but I think he was the greatest philosopher I ever met. He used to tell us how lucky he was because he was able to come from Spain to Cuba. And then he came from Cuba to the United States. And he saw me graduate from college, and that was the biggest prize he ever had. And he said, don't lose this place because you're not going to be as lucky as me. Because if you lose this place, you have no place to go. So with that, please keep that in mind. And please, people, explain that to our young people who are demonstrating out there. Don't be useful idiots. Please understand what's happening in our country. See what happens to our parents, and see what is happening to America today. Mr. President, thank you very much, and thank you for your hard work.
Thank you very much. And he became one of the most successful men in Florida. So that's the only thing he didn't.
If you didn't feel those words, you're not human. But he just annihilated any excuse that anybody can make. No matter what the color of your skin, no matter where you come from. If you come here, you can be whatever you want to be. That's the American way. You're watching The Real Greg Kelly Show. I keep it real, dog. I don't know no other way to keep it. America, rise up. Don't lay down. This is not the time to lay down. Oh yeah, AC, I got you, bro. Alright, so I got a couple of more. Just a couple of more. Trump was warned about communism. Now I want to show you that it really is in this country. It's here. The question is, what are we gonna do about it? What are we gonna do about it? Not the government, us. We, the people. Yeah, let it sink in. We the people. You are watching The Real Greg Kelly Show. I will be right back after this commercial break. Just a little commercial.
Let's bring in Florida GOP Congressman Byron Donalds. He's a member of the House Budget Committee. Good morning, Congressman. The expectation is this will go over to your side of the legislature within a couple of days, perhaps by the end of the week. What do you expect to happen in the House?
Well, first of all, I expect it, unfortunately, that it's going to pass. Nancy Pelosi still has proxy voting rules from when the House was largely shut down because of COVID-19. Because the truth is that if she doesn't have proxy votes for her members, she loses votes on the House floor. So we're still voting remotely in the House, the silliest thing in American history. So we do expect it to come. Unfortunately, it looks like it will pass once it gets through the Senate. But this thing is an absolute tragedy for the American people. You talked about the IRS army. For the American people, that's on page 33 of this bill, the IRS army. Number one, most of the IRS agents aren't even back in the office. They're still working remotely. And then they're going to go find 80,000 more. That's insane.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Congressman. And Senator Susan Collins wanted to block that part of the bill because, like you said, it would hire 87,000 new IRS agents. Many of them aren't even in the workplace right now. And get this, the mass hiring would give more employees to the IRS than the Pentagon, State Department, the FBI, as well as Border Patrol combined. This is $80 billion to hire all of these agents. Is that what America needs right now?
No, what America needs right now is for these Democrat senators. I'm talking about Casto in Nevada. I'm talking about Deb Haaland in New Hampshire, Raphael Warnock in Georgia. I'm talking, what they need to do, Mark Kelly in Arizona. They need to actually get those hires for border control and border security, so we're not losing 100,000 plus people a year to fentanyl overdoses. That's what they should be focused on in the United States Senate, not sending more employees into the IRS to harass American citizens just so they can squeeze every single dollar for their wasteful spending on green energy, which frankly does not work. It's not as green as they say, and it actually pollutes the environment when you look at the entire supply chain of solar panels and wind turbines.
So, Congressman, you think this piece of legislation will be rubber stamped in the House? Is there any chance that any of those amendments that are getting shot down by Republicans now can be brought up in the House, or is that process even available?
We're going to do everything we can to bring those up. It's very tricky dealing with budget reconciliation. In the Budget Committee, we make proposals to the Rules Committee. It's a very inside the Beltway process, but we're going to do everything we can to try to hold them accountable. But I want the American people to understand this. They don't care about inflation. They don't care about cheap and affordable energy. What these Democrat senators and unfortunately these Democrat members of Congress only care about is their Green New Deal agenda, which is a tragedy for our country. It doesn't help us be energy independent, but House Republicans are going to stand firm to make sure that we either kill this bill altogether or make sure that we get as many of these subsidies, these boondoggle projects out of this bill and stop wasting Americans' hard-earned taxpayer dollars.
So, Congressman, switching gears, you know, the illegal immigration crisis seems to have made its way to your state, and it's a pretty fascinating development. Here's what's going on. Late last week, 12 different migrant landings, 108 illegal Cuban migrants arrested Friday, then 3 different landings, 42 more Cubans. And then yesterday, a landing near Key Largo. So this is 113 Haitian migrants now taken into custody. We see what's happening at the southern border. We see where, by the way, these illegal immigrants are coming from. A lot of them, by the way, Venezuela, South America, Central America. So clearly there's an open door or a sign out that says open for business. But I'm curious, border enforcement through, the waterways in Florida. Like, what are you seeing? We know so much about the southern border. What are you experiencing there in Florida?
Well, look, this is a real problem because that waterway is treacherous. People can easily die in that journey without question. For a long time, the United States had wet foot, dry foot policy when it came to Cuban immigrants because they truly were escaping the tyranny of the Castro regime. And so when Cuban migrants land on our shores, we want to make sure that we take them in. And at the end of the day, if there's an asylum process still going on in immigration services, we need to make sure that happens because they are escaping tyranny. Let's make no mistake about it. And that's what the asylum process is for. So we had a couple landings here. It's not been the biggest weight on our border agents here in the state of Florida, but it pales in comparison to what's happening at the southern border. Because when people land on ships here, one thing we know is they're not bringing fentanyl with them, which is killing our citizens. What happens here is they're trying to escape extreme poverty in the case of Haiti or outright tyranny in the case of Cuba.
56 people on the terror watch list that we know of have tried to cross into our country, about 500,000 known gotaways. So you have to expect that number is higher in practice than what we know. Are you seeing any Democrats concerned about this issue or anybody that might be leaning towards working with Republicans to try and figure something out to secure the border?
No. No, actually, there's not one of them that's really interested in it. The only Democrat I've even heard talk about the issue is Henry Cuellar out of Texas. But other than that, they are mum. We actually had a field hearing, select committee had a field hearing down in McAllen. The border was 2 miles away from the hearing. The Democrats didn't even want to go. They weren't even curious. So this is why I try to explain to the American people. It's one thing if there were proposals floating around Capitol Hill that we're debating. None of that is happening at all. Congressional Democrats, Senate Democrats do not care. They are not interested. They rather just raise taxes on the energy industry in this Inflation Reduction Act, which, by the way, America, is on page 633 of the bill. They rather raise taxes on the energy infrastructure in the United States than actually secure our border and make sure we don't have drugs flowing over into our communities and to stop the cartel from making billions and billions of dollars every single year trafficking people into the United States.
Congressman, Florida is an immigration state. There are a lot of immigrants that live in Florida. Like you said, many have come from Cuba as political dissidents. But I live in Georgia, and I know back in the 90s, the Coyote Corridor would basically follow I-40, I-20, come into Tennessee. Then you would either go to North Carolina or down to Florida to work in agriculture. Things have changed a bit. My town's a textile town. A lot of immigrants are there. In your state of Florida, with a large amount of Hispanic and South American and Caribbean immigrants in Florida that have both come illegally and legally, what are you seeing as far as, we saw Cubans turn towards Donald Trump. We saw the Rio Grande Valley turns towards Donald Trump. What is their perspective, being immigrants themselves, on the border crisis as it is now?
Well, look, people who've come to our country and escaped tyranny, they hate this illegal immigration situation going on. They do not like it. Polling is already starting to show that in the Latino community, they are not supportive of illegal immigration. There are people who truly escaped tyranny to come to the United States. If you talk to Venezuelans in Miami, Cubans in Miami, they will tell you the atrocities by their government. That's why they've come to America, the best country in the world. But just for people from all these different countries, more than 140, to be trafficked by the drug cartel, they find that to be obscene. They do not like it. They want a secure border. And once we secure our border, get border security under control, then we can start talking about immigration. But we can't get into immigration policy if we don't have a secure border. And that's what frustrates them. That's what frustrates me and so many Americans.
As we go, y'all want to see the congressman hit a curveball? Watch this. I bet he hits it over the park. Congressman, will Kevin Durant be traded?
Yes.
Where to?
Ooh, you know what? That's a good question. I don't know where he's going to go, but I think he's going to be traded. Look, at the end of the day, Kevin Durant is the best player in the game today. Everybody knows that. But the package has got to be right. There's not a team that wants to blow up their team just for KD to go there, because it's going to be the same thing that's happening in Brooklyn right now. I think the Nets should go ahead and make the move of trading Kyrie Irving. That situation is not going to work out. Go ahead and move KD, get some draft picks, get some young talent, and then rebuild the franchise. I want the Brooklyn Nets to be better. You know, I'm from Brooklyn. I want them to be good, but it's not going to work out.
I knew you'd see the curveball coming right down the line, and
I can't even see the ball.
You'd aim for the fences.
A baseball analogy on a basketball question to the congressman on a politics show. I love it, Will. Thank you.
Congressman, great to see you this morning.
Anytime.
Yeah.
I'm Steve Ducey. I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I mean...
Okay. I'm hoping at this point you have definitely seen the repetitive actions being taken that come straight out of the communist playbook. They're making these same plays, executing these same X's and O's right here in America, on American soil, using the American people as pawns. Wow. You're watching the Real Greg Kelly Show. I got a little bit more for you, just a little bit. I want you to see what took place. I want you to see what came out of the hearts of those people that are calling themselves Democrats when Roe versus Wade, that judgment came down the barrel, front and center, right in the eye of the communists. We are not dealing with Democrats any longer. We got to call it what it is. Roe v. Wade. Look at the response from the Communist Party. You watching the Real Greg Kelly Show? Just see it for yourself. Don't worry about me. Here we go.
Yes, this is a blockbuster announcement. The Supreme Court has voted to overturn Roe v. Wade.
The Supreme Court today, an historic upheaval. In a sweeping ruling that overturned a half a century of precedents, 5 justices ended the right of American women to choose abortion under the Constitution.
That's right. The Supreme Court has officially overturned Roe v. Wade.
This is an historic moment. Amen? And I'm afraid that the warfare is only intensifying.
On June 24th, 2022, the Supreme Court of the United States overturned Roe v. Wade. Here are 8 things you need to know about this decision. First, it sounds absolutely crazy to say this, but after 50 years of failure by Republicans to overturn Roe v. Wade, even when there was a majority of Republican-appointed justices on the Supreme Court.
Then in 1992, the Supreme Court upheld Roe by reaffirming a right to abortion in the Planned Parenthood versus Casey decision. Of the 9 justices on the court in 1992, 8 of them had been appointed by Republican presidents. Not only that, since 1973, the court has never had a Democrat-appointed majority. Of the 15 justices appointed since Roe, Republican presidents appointed 11 of them.
The events that finally led to the end of Roe v. Wade were the election of Donald Trump as President of the United States and his appointing Justices Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett to the Supreme Court.
So that includes
Justice Neil Gorsuch, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, and that includes the Supreme Court's newest, brilliant, principled woman, Justice Amy Coney Barrett.
In short, God used Donald Trump to overturn this great evil in the United States. Donald Trump. That just sounds weird to say. Second, immediately after the decision was announced, protesters outside the Supreme Court chanted illegitimate. We can expect that many will not accept this legal decision, and that there will be protests and violence in response.
Letter signed by radical abortion group Jane's Revenge declares open season on pro-life pregnancy centers.
The fight is far from over. Here are some media responses to this event.
We want to recognize right off the bat that not everyone agrees on this particular issue, but it is at its core about whether you have the right to make decisions about another person's reproductive choices. That's at its core. That's what this is about.
This court has lost legitimacy. They have burned whatever legitimacy they may still have had.
I'm devastated and terrified, and so many women and so many girls are going to die because of this.
All I could think was, thank God I have at least a choice.
Women are no longer people.
I think that women should have the right. I'm not going to get on a soapbox and give you some very flowery speech. That's the way that I see the world, and that's what I think is right.
To me, this is just pure insanity. Pure insanity. We are going backwards in time. We are literally going backwards in time. It makes no sense how anybody thinks it's their right to tell a woman what to do with her body. I just don't get it.
Third, 13 states had trigger bans that would be put into effect immediately if Roe v. Wade were ever overturned. These trigger bans will now ban abortion within 30 days. These 13 states are Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Kentucky.
The trigger ban in Tennessee is fairly restrictive. It pushes women toward self-managed abortion. They're moving their abortions to doing pills at home. They kind of facilitates the switch to self-managed abortion.
5 other states had recently passed laws targeting abortion that had been blocked by courts. These laws may now go into effect now that Roe v. Wade has been overturned. These 5 states are Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Ohio, and Iowa. Fourth, James White gets it right when he tweeted, "Okay, I'm sorry, but I'm Scottish. We can rejoice and be thankful. But let's also be real. Unless there is a mighty move of the Spirit of God resulting in changed hearts and minds amongst the younger generations in the U.S., this is but a brief blip on the radar screen." While we should certainly celebrate the justices of this Supreme Court decision, we should also recognize that increasingly the youth of this country are successfully being indoctrinated with lies, which means the fight is not at all over. If you like this video, subscribe helps spread the truth. Unless something changes culturally, an enormous percentage of people in this culture will continue to support and fight for the death that Roe v. Wade represents. And it may only be a matter of time until something similar to Roe v. Wade becomes law once again.
For those who happen to get pregnant in the process, the platform advocates that you kill the baby at the will of the mother, up and including the 9th month, leaving God out, advocating abortion, advocating homosexuality, advocating free sexual conduct and government-provided condoms so that everybody can do what they want. That is literally creating a platform out of what God hates. When you have an advocacy of support for the slaughter of infants and homosexuality and complete sexual freedom, you have a formula for divine judgment.
Fifth, we should recognize that this Supreme Court decision was absolutely just and right. Roe v. Wade was a terrible decision in the first place, and the Constitution does not at all make provision for this kind of evil.
First, understand that Roe v. Wade is not the law of the land. Have you ever seen anything about a right to abortion in the Constitution? Of course not. Even the Supreme Court has admitted that it's not in the text, but claims it is in a right to privacy, which is in the penumbra of the Constitution. What is that? Well, when you shine a light on an object, the shadow behind it is called an umbra, and the fuzzy shadow outside of that is called a penumbra. Of course, that's just a really twisted way of saying it's not in there. In fact, the Constitution says the opposite and defends all human life, preborn or otherwise, in the 14th Amendment by saying that no state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Sixth, the U.S. Department of Justice officially released a dissent in response to this Supreme Court decision. Ben Shapiro tweeted, "The DOJ has now released a long Merrick Garland dissent. Anyone who believes that institutional trust is under threat should take note that the DOJ is now an explicitly political tool." Seventh, let's take a deep breath and look at what's going on in Twitter world regarding all of this. According to Breaking 911, Nancy Pelosi says, "There is no point in saying good morning because it certainly is not one."
This morning, the radical Supreme Court is eviscerating Americans' rights and endangering their health and safety. Today, the Republican-controlled Supreme Court has achieved their dark, extreme goal of ripping away a woman's right to make their own reproductive health decisions. Radical Republicans are charging ahead with their crusade to criminalize health freedom.
In response, Ally Beth Stuckey tweeted, "Devout Catholic Nancy Pelosi literally chokes up explaining that there is no longer a constitutional right to dismember children." Matt Walsh tweeted, "History will look back on today like we look back on the abolition of slavery and the liberation of the concentration camps. It is a day when abject evil has suffered a major defeat, and many innocent humans will live and be free because of it." Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the representative of the most radical wing of the Democratic Party, tweeted, "Overturning Roe and outlawing abortions will never make them go away. It only makes them more dangerous, especially for the poor and marginalized. People will die because of this decision, and we will never stop until abortion rights are restored in the United States of America." Albert Mohler tweeted, "Here is the most important sentence from Justice Thomas's concurring opinion. Substantive due process conflicts with that contextual command and has harmed our country in many ways. Accordingly, we should eliminate it from our jurisprudence at the earliest opportunity." Similarly, Ben Shapiro tweeted, "Thomas's concurrence is fantastic. It's a complete rejection of substantive due process, and every word is worth reading." What is substantive due process? Substantive due process is a principle in United States constitutional law that allows courts to protect certain fundamental rights from government interference, even if procedural protections are present or the rights are enumerated elsewhere in the U.S. Constitution. In successful cases, the Supreme Court recognizes a constitutionally based liberty and considers laws that seek to limit that liberty to be unenforceable or limited in scope. Critics of substantive due process decisions usually assert that there is no textual basis in the Constitution for such protection, and that such liberties should be left under the purview of the more politically accountable branches of government. Eighth, we should recognize that ultimately, the only answer to abortion is the true Christian biblical worldview that is both logically consistent and teaches that humans have value from conception. Secular arguments are fatally limited in what they can ultimately accomplish.
What do you say to her when she steals your thunder on the abortion stops a beating heart argument? What do you say to her when she stands there and says, "Yeah, you're right, I agree, and my position has not changed"? What do we have then? That's why I believe it's important for us to have a biblical, theological understanding and approach to this issue and the way that we address this issue with our culture at large.
right, y'all. I got one more video for you, man. Hey, thank you for watching the Real Greg Kelly Show tonight. Thank you. Thanks for being here. So by now, you should know, without a doubt, that we're fighting against the communist regime. We've been infiltrated. At this point, it's absolutely factual, okay? Absolutely factual. Our government has been infiltrated by the communists. Thanks for watching. I got another clip for you before I shut it down. Want to give a shout out to everybody that's here. AC, Robert PNW, Brooke, Taylor, Nick, Nana, Sugar Baby 1010, that's my dog, that's my honey. Y'all know it. Joker, thanks for being here, brother. Roger W, shout out to you, fam, I salute you. If I missed you, it's not because I didn't want to, I think I called Taylor. I appreciate you guys, man. Share the video, y'all. Share the video. Share it all. If you want to donate to the show, you see how to do it. Y'all know I don't really fool with the asking for money thing, but it's up to you. It's your money. Do with it whatever you choose. All right. I got one more for you guys. This is about CERN. Okay, so we're being attacked from one side and then attacked from another side. We're being hit from everywhere. But CERN is very dangerous. And I want to leave you with the practices of those who desire to abolish this planet in defiance against God. I couldn't make this up if I wanted to. I really don't want to. But I want you to tell me what you see. Just tell me what you see. Don't worry about what I see. Don't worry about what anybody else sees. What do you see? That's what's important. But make sure, at the same time, that your perspective is accurate. Don't make up nothing. Don't drink the Kool-Aid of the commies. Okay. It's the last clip for the night. Once again, I want to tell everybody how much I care for you. We in this together. Don't ever deny that. Don't ever question that. We in this together. As long as we are together, we stay together. Whew. Here we go. CERN. Dangerous behavior. The enemy is in our backyard, in our front yard, and they're trying to wipe us out. You need to watch this. Make sure you share this. Like the channel. Subscribe to the channel. Share the videos. Real Greg Kelly Show. CERN up next.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw the light, that it was good.
physical reality is a shadow of a larger reality. And I was blown away when I first saw that, because that's exactly what the Bible's been saying all along. Einstein made scientific history by recognizing that we really live in 4 dimensions, by adding time to the mix. Time is a physical property. We know that we live in at least 10. That's the current dimensions. 4 of them are directly, we can experience them. But we know there's 6 others that we can't get at directly, but we know we can infer their existence mathematically. What makes that provocative to people who've discovered that is that a Hebrew sage by the name of Nachmanides, back in the 13th century, predicted that from studying the text of Genesis. He concluded that our universe has 10 dimensions, only 4 are knowable, to use his term, and 6 are not knowable to us. And I find that fascinating, because we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars on atomic accelerators to discover what Nachmanides did by studying the text. So the 10, some say 11, there's some debates among mathematicians about details, but there's awareness within the advanced scientific community that we live in more than just the 4 dimensions that we directly experience. And that in Genesis 3, when God declares war because of the fall of man, the creation was made subject to the bondage of decay, the entropy laws and all of that. Apparently were somehow tied to God's curse on everything we know about the creation is post-curse. Prior to the curse, it may have had 10 dimensions, and for some reason was fractionated. So that some of us tend to regard those 6 inaccessible dimensions as the domain of things like angels, the domain of paranormal behavior.
So the book of Revelation opens up the future for us. So in Revelation chapter number 9 and verse 1, the scripture says, "And the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace. And the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power, as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. And in those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared to battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the faces of men. They had hair as the hair of a woman, and with teeth were as the teeth of lions. And they had breastplates, as it were breastplates of iron. The sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tail. Their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. Woe, one woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more. I want to preach you a message about something that is happening right now while you're sitting in this auditorium. It's in Cern, Switzerland. Now, you may not be aware of what's going on over there, but there's a thing over there that's called a Large Hadron Collider. And it is an accelerator. It accelerates particles and then brings them to the point of collision. So this Large Hadron Collider was started up just a few days ago, and it's still in the initial process of being brought online completely. You say, what in the world does something like that have to do with me and the Bible? It has a lot to do with you and the Bible. I cannot and will not attempt to speak as a physicist. It would make me look like a fool. My purpose this morning is to try to be a liaison between them and you, is to try to take what's going on in that collider and break it down to where I can understand it, and I can give it out so you can understand it, to where it makes an application to your life and to this world as we know it today. For what is happening in that collider is an astounding thing. So I want to read something to you this morning from what's called a theoretical physicist. This man, his name is Stephen Hawking. He's well known throughout the world. Anyone that has anything to do with nuclear energy or has anything to do with physics knows this man. And he is one that some rate even on the level of Einstein and of that level. And so I want to read to you what this man has to say about what's happening right now in CERN, Switzerland. Listen carefully. These are the words of Stephen Hawking. He recently warned the reactivation in March of CERN's Large Hadron Collider could pose grave dangers to our planet. The ultimate reality, check, we are warned. Hawking has come straight out and said the God particle, and this is what you've heard referred to time and again as the Higgs boson particle, the God particle found by CERN could destroy the universe. Now let that settle in. This man is an atheist, and he says there is no God. Yet he says that what's happening right now in CERN, Switzerland, and I'll give you what they're trying to do in a moment, what's happening at this very minute in CERN, Switzerland, has the potential to destroy the universe. This is a theoretical physicist. Now, physicists come in all kinds of sizes. Astrophysicist Neil deGrasse Tyson has also sounded the alarm in a hypothetical manner by telling anyone who might want to blow up a planet how to do so is this CERN's attempt to do so by attempting to recreate the Big Bang within a man-made structure. This has frightened Stephen Hawking so much. Do they know that they know that they know what they are doing? Ask yourself, how much energy is keeping it together? Neil deGrasse Tyson told co-host Eugene Merman on his Star Talk radio show, then you put more than that amount of energy into the object, it will explode. Now I think I've got your attention. I've quoted two physicists. These are scientists. These men do not agree with what's happening in CERN, Switzerland right now. There is a 17-mile long accelerator that lies 300 feet beneath the surface of the ground. This area is where France and Switzerland come together. So part of this accelerator is located in France and part of it in Switzerland. It is a joint European project. The United States of America is there as an observer, but the brain power that's going in to this experimentation originates in Europe. They are attempting to recreate what they believe happened that brought all of this into existence as being the Big Bang. Now you and I know from the book of Genesis chapter number 1 that in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth. He spoke it into existence. They are finding things, and this is what's important for us to understand today. They are discovering things that they did not expect to discover as they get deeper and deeper into this experimentation and development and research and so forth. They are beginning to find out that there is a whole lot more to the creation than they had ever given thought to before. They're beginning to find out that there's something going on here that boggles the human mind, that literally blows us apart when we try to even comprehend what's happening. This 17-mile long underground tube that is located there in Switzerland has, I think, 4 or 5 different points where they collide with, some say, protons and maybe something else, but particles that are being moved at or above the speed of light inside this collider. Now, for your information, there is one near us in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, but it is not nearly as large as what we're dealing with here. And apparently, the larger the collider, the more speed that they can attain, and the more they're able to get deeper into what they're looking for. They're looking for the very building blocks of what brought all of this together. To give you an analogy, let's say you have a house. You observe that house, it's beautiful. You think, my goodness, let's see how this is put together. And so you start taking the house apart and you expect to find nails, but instead you find glue. That fascinates you that much more because you find glue holding this house together. You wonder to yourself, what was this glue like before its hardened state? Because you see, once the glue glues the things together, it hardens, solidifies. They want to know what the glue was like in its liquid state. So they're going through this to go back to that point to where they can separate and find out what this was like then. And by doing that, of course, they can build on the information and knowledge that they attain. Now, what's going to follow in the message this morning is the implications of what's going on. But let me give you just a little bit of what has been happening. Where they have done this experimentation, strange things are happening, unexpected by the scientist. Paranormal phenomena, they like to call it. Apparitions, ghosts, all kinds of demonic spirits are beginning to manifest themselves in ways. Here we have, in Cern, Switzerland, a huge wheel. Inside that wheel is a Hindu god, and his name is Shiva. He does a dance of destruction inside that wheel, and his purpose is he is one of the triad gods, one of the greatest gods of Hinduism. Shiva, Vishnu, and Brahma. Brahma is the god of creation. Vishnu is the god of preservation, but Shiva is the god of destruction. The way the Hindu sees it is that when Shiva destroys, it's not for the purpose of annihilation. He destroys so that Brahma can come and recreate. So now when the Hindu, since they're scientists to CERN, they put this out there in front, and so what these people are doing with the collider is destroying what comes together, but for the purpose of recreating and find out what brought it into existence to begin with. Are you following me? Now here we have men that are scientists on an average of an IQ of anywhere from 160 to 200 or even above. These are some of the smartest brains in all the world. No question about it whatsoever. I pick up physicists and try to read some of this stuff. I think, good night. Forget me. That's for a brain that is wired that way. No question. But we were told when Darwin's theory of evolution came out and became vogue, that it would destroy the foundations of Christianity, and this old book that we hold in our hands, this old outdated Bible, would no longer be relevant, and a lot of people bought into it. Because after all, Darwin is scientific. But it's an amazing thing now that 150 years later, we have some of the greatest scientists in the world that are becoming very religious. Because here they've got Shiva, they've got dances to Shiva, and they are definitely being connected with Shiva as they're finding things. Let me give you one example. In one of their collisions, when they collided these particles together, they saw things. They were apparitions they didn't expect to see. They didn't fit in any model. They didn't fit anywhere. They don't belong, but they could not deny the reality of it. Something was going on inside there that they could not explain. And it was scary for them. For the scientist has his paper and his pencil and his books, and if it doesn't fit in his paper and his pencil and his books, it's out the window. They don't understand. They have a hard time accepting the fact that there is a spirit world out there. That spirit world was created by a spirit being, an almighty, eternal, absolute being that is from everlasting to everlasting, who put in me what I am today by the power of Almighty God and and by the power of the new birth. But a scientist like that will never admit that, because that takes it out of his control and his power. He's got to be able to demonstrate his theory and put it into motion. But anyway, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to leave this with you. I want you to think about what I'm saying. Stephen Hawking, and a theoretical physicist, has warned these people, you are about to open Pandora's box. And once you open Pandora's box, you cannot put back in what came out of that box. Now let's talk about some of the stuff that's going on. I think I'm trying to lay a foundation for you to get you to understand what we're dealing with. So the house, you take it apart and you see the glue and you find it in its hardened state, and then you want to find out, what can I do to bring this back to its original state? And then what can I learn from that? So you've got to be able to take it back. You've got to be able to go back. You've got to move through time. That's what you're doing. You're moving through time. This is what it's about. They want to know what that matter was like before it came into its present form. They must determine what holds it together. They must break down the element and see what holds it together. Now, folks, if you know your Bible, you know what's holding it together. This is a big deal to these people. What's holding this together? The Bible says all things are upholded by the word of his power. A word is a spiritual thing. You can never put it under a microscope, but it's real. Who sealed you until the day of redemption? The Holy Ghost. Who put life inside your soul, where your heart is set on fire when you read his word and pray? The Holy Ghost. Who in this house would deny this morning the reality of a spirit being that saved you and wrote your name in the Lamb's Book of Life and indwelled you right now? But they want to know. They want to find out. CERN allows them to examine particles in their initial state, not after it's bonded together. So what has come from CERN? Now listen carefully to what I'm going to say to you. This is not exhaustive, but this is what I've gotten so far. What has come out of this? They have a list of their accomplishments, their achievements, and all of that. That's all well and good. But one thing for certain is what's called antimatter. How many's ever heard of antimatter? Antimatter. Now, if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago what antimatter was, I'd have said, well, it's matter, it's against matter. Didn't have a clue. I wouldn't know where to start, where to end, where I was if I got there. Let me tell you what antimatter, some of the characteristics of it. There are those that believe that for everything in the universe that is matter, that there is a corresponding antimatter. Corresponding. That there's a connection between the two. That matter, for example, take a piece of wood. It's matter. This is matter. This is matter. Matter. It's something physical, or it's something real, all right? If you act upon that matter, it can burn. Wood, for example. You've acted upon it, but you've had to act upon it. You've had to do something to cause the wood to burn. Antimatter, on the other hand, is a very unstable thing that does not need to be acted on. Unless you do something to contain it, it's going to burn. It's very volatile, and it is very, very, very uncertain as to what all it's capable of doing. Antimatter is a product of this experimentation in CERN, Switzerland. Antimatter is coming from it. Antimatter is so powerful that one man says that one grain of antimatter is the equivalent of 4 atomic bombs that were dropped on Hiroshima. I got on the internet and did a little research, and I found out they call it Little Boy, the first bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima, then later on the one on Nagasaki. I thought, what was in that bomb? What exploded? You know, we understand nuclear fission and all these other big terms. We understand some kind of a nuclear reaction took place. Everybody knows that, right? Some kind of a nuclear reaction took place. But then I got to digging a little deeper, and I said, now, what was in there? And from what I can find out, it was no more than from 9 to 13 grams of something inside their matter that exploded. And so I have to understand their scale. What are you talking about? You're talking about a handful? It doesn't sound like much to me, does it? In other words, the bomb that exploded at Hiroshima, when they split the atom, when they released the energy from the atom by the process they used, are you telling me that there was no more there than what would be a handful? I'm not saying I understand all that, but I want you to think about it for a minute. If no more than a handful of this material, this matter, that's what you'll get if you look on Wikipedia and somebody's research, it'll say matter. It'll say 8 to 13 grams of matter was used to explode and release energy and heat. And I would imagine, I don't know their scale, I don't know. In other words, is their gram the same as a gram of peanuts, a grain of peanuts or something, or is it a different scale? I don't know. But it wouldn't seem to me to be a whole lot to begin with. So, if that did that, 1 grain of antimatter is the equivalent of 4 of them. How much is 1 grain of antimatter? They say it takes a long time to produce a single pound of antimatter, but now because of their technology and what they're doing at CERN, Switzerland, that they can produce this stuff much quicker, and they're beginning to produce antimatter. When they produce antimatter, strange things happen. They took some of it and they put it in a college. They won't name the college, and for reasons I understand. And the college had the facilities to contain it. Antimatter has to be contained. So they put it in a college to contain it. Strange things started happening at the college. People started hallucinating, having visions. People were going wild. All kinds of crazy stuff was happening. Apparitions. In plain words, there's a connection between this stuff and the spirit world. Now I want you to think for a minute. Don't get ahead of me, just think. The Bible said, he that letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. 2 Thessalonians chapter number 2. God Almighty is going to let them go so far, but He's not going to go any further. The spirit world, folks, is not affected by the physical. Demons, all this other stuff, probably couldn't care less whether you've got matter or antimatter. It's a spirit being. But to fit into the great deception that's coming, and it's about here right now. I mean, a deception like this world has never known before. To fit into this great deception, they can sure draw these men in to make them think that because they have reached this certain point in their scientific analysis, that they're bringing in these spirit beings. It'll make true believers out of them, but it'll do more than make true believers out of them. NASA said just a few days ago, they said just a few days ago, that by the year 2020, that we will definitely come in contact with aliens, beings from another planet. Now we're talking about scientists. We're talking about Darwin's crowd. We're talking about the crowd that threw the Bible out and said it's old, archaic, anachronistic. It doesn't belong today. We're talking about that bunch. We're too smart for the Bible. We're scientists. Yet this crowd is saying that in just a few years that they're going to know that they're going to come in contact with alien beings. I thought to myself, my. Do you boys, have you always known that you've got a certain date set? And what you think is an alien being is really a demon? Yeah. There are no aliens out there, folks. Forget that stuff, okay? There's nothing out there. You get into the third heaven, you get into the abode of God. There's nothing up there. All these UFOs, spacecraft, flying saucers, all this stuff, that's all demonic. Yeah. It's real, but it's demonic. Right. It's not real like we understand reality, but it's really real. It's demonic. I see a great deception beginning to develop. That in their analysis and in their laboratories that they believe in, that they've got their heart and soul tied up in, little things begin to show up, stuff that they can't explain, that sucks them in to begin to understand, well, maybe this is being affected, it's being acted upon by something that we don't understand completely. And this spirit being that comes from out there, that comes down to this world, they accept with open arms because they're willing to put Shiva out there dancing around in the cosmos and destroying and then bringing a new creation in. Here are these wise, smart, brilliant men, and they're willing to believe that there's something more than what can be measured in a microscope and can be put in a petri dish, that there's something going on, and you better believe there is. There's something going on. Now, in the spirit world that I just preached to you about, you can see that. Now, what about the physical world? Let's go back to Hawking for a minute. He said, remember, he's an atheist. He doesn't believe in spirits. He's a dialectical materialist. He's a Bolshevik. He believes that what they're liable to do here in Cern, Switzerland, is unleash the gates of hell on this earth. The reason I took you to Revelation is because in the 9th chapter of Revelation, what you just read is the gate of hell. Revelation chapter number 4 is the door to heaven. When he catches up his saints to meet him in the clouds, we're going through the door into heaven. But he will open the gate of hell on this earth. And according to Revelation chapter number 9, these beings are coming up out of the earth. If you remember when Saul went to the witch of Endor, she said, I saw spirit coming up out of the earth, coming up. What she see? She saw demons. Until God brought Samuel back himself personally, the real Samuel, who appeared before Saul and the witch of Endor. What would be a greater ruse than to use their science and their technology to suck them in to accepting some spirit being coming from somewhere up here, some alien, down to this earth, and do it through a collider over here. This is as high technology I suppose you got on this earth. And do it through that, and bring it down upon this earth, and bring it into people. Now here's one of the things about this. This antimatter is also called dark matter. And dark matter has energy attached to it. And the energy affects people. It affects them. And remember, when you produce antimatter, you got to contain it. Because if you don't contain it, you got to contain it. That's the biggest problem, containing it. Because if you don't contain it, it just goes wild. And they don't know what it's liable to do. Now, folks, go check me out. Go check me out. I want you to. Go check me out this afternoon and see what it says about antimatter. And it'll say, yes, you better contain it because you don't know what it's liable to do. But they do know this. From what they've experienced so far, it has an effect on people. Dark matter has an effect on people. It causes some people to go screaming mad. It controls people. It is an enormously powerful thing. It's pulling something out of hell that you don't want any part to do with and turning it loose on mankind. Now, I don't know that I've ever been in agreement with an atheist before, but I'm in agreement with this one. I and Mr. Hawking see it the same way. They better leave that stuff alone. The only crowds you have in this country today are the crowds that are pumped up by rock and rap, and it's all about love, self-love, and positive attitudes, and money and me, myself and I. I'm in love with me. I'm in love with myself, and I'm in love with I. And your wife says, "I know you are, and that's why I'm leaving." That's the truth. You ought to write a book about 15 ways to love yourself. It'd sell like you wouldn't believe. Absolutely. That's all it is. It's a joke. Just a big joke. You know that. It's just a big joke. All right. You've got the people to the point to where they can be moved emotionally. Not intellectually, but emotionally. Anything stirs people today. They got crowd mentality. They got mob mentality. Can you imagine something that has created earthquakes? That has made apparitions appear? That you've got scientists warning, don't do this? You don't know what you're going to unleash? Maybe there's a greater purpose in all of that they're not even aware of. He's called Satan. Maybe he intends to bring chaos on this earth. Chaos. And you know the old thing? How does it go? What's the term? Order out of chaos. I forget the Latin terminology for it. Order out of chaos. The peacemaker shows up. The earth is in a turmoil and it's blazing and burning, and then the peacemaker shows up. How close could we be to the second coming of our Lord Jesus Christ? How close could we be? How close? The church is asleep, but the Lord's coming back. If I were 17, 18, 19 years old this morning, I'd be worried. I've lived 68 years. I'm ready to go meet the Lord. The Lord comes get me, I'm gone. But you young people coming up and you want to start a family, you want to have children, you know, you've got all your life in front of you by the grace of God. And to hear about something over here that they can produce 1 gram of it has the potential of 4 atomic bombs. Boy, if somebody got a hold of that, you talk about blackmailing a whole nation. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm going to tell you this morning what I really believe. I really do believe this. I believe that all the peace and prosperity and joy, as far as this world's concerned, that you've enjoyed, enjoy it, because I don't think things are going to get any better. I believe they're going to get worse. And I believe you're just beginning to see the beginning of it, and I believe you're seeing it. Herman Wouk wrote a book. He was a Jew. He wrote a book entitled The Winds of War. And what that means is that before a war actually breaks out with physical shooting, it's already broken out in philosophy. It's already broken out in a lot of different ways. Countries are building up their armament and so forth. Well, that's happening right now. It's happening right now. And that war is soon to come. There's going to come an Armageddon. There's coming an apocalypse. I hope you're ready. I hope you're ready. I hope you are. I hope you're ready to meet the Lord. I hope you're ready. My biggest fear of this place over here is not them blowing up the world. Although, the Lord's going to make the decision about that. Here's what I worry about coming out of that place, is all this spirit deception, using it to deceive people. They connect spirituality and science together. Imagine what kind of a union that would have. Science and spirituality. Not Christ, but science and spirituality joined together. Man! They've got what they want when that happens. How many of you know the Lord Jesus this morning? Boy, even so, come Lord Jesus. Now, folks, I've only had 3 or 4 days to deal with this. I've gotten some stuff in here that I need to go deeper into and look at a little further, because there's some stuff going on here that literally blows my mind. But what I've given out to you this morning is just skimming the surface about what's happening in Cern, Switzerland. Some of you may know a whole lot more about some of this stuff than I do. But if you do, you should be alarmed, because what I've told you the truth. Folks, this is not hypothetical. If I understand correctly, no more than a handful of matter was used to blow up Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They released the potential in that and blew it up, if I understand it correctly. And that 1 gram of antimatter is 4 times more powerful than what blew up Nagasaki and Hiroshima. You don't want that in the hands of the wrong person. Father, in Jesus' name, I ask you to use what I've said, Lord, for the glory of God. There may be somebody sitting in this house this morning that's awake now. They've wakened up, and they're alarmed, and they're worried, and they're thinking, my goodness, if half of what that preacher said is true, that's enough to stir me. And do something about it. In Jesus' name, and for Jesus' sake, amen.
All right, y'all. I appreciate you being here tonight. I pray you got something from all of this information that, I was able to share with you guys, man. Listen. Amazing. Amazing sermon. A true patriot. A true shepherd. Just want to thank y'all for being here tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. You guys head over to my main man channel. AC, ice cold air conditioner. Make sure y'all go over and show him some support. Thank you for participating. Tell me what you see part 2. It's time to get on our knees, man, and get right with the Lord, but also get right with each other. I'm gonna be signing off. It's the Real Greg Kelly Show. America, stand up. I'm out of the cockpit tonight. Woo! I hope y'all got something out of this, man. Nothing but love over here. All my patriots, all my warriors, all my freedom fighters. Stand up. That time is here.